Hey everybody, welcome to another Pay It Forward. I'm your host, Leo Schoolfield, and today we have a very special guest. His name is David Torres. This guy works in Hypori. I hope I didn't butcher that name.
That's exactly
but he's
right.
an outstanding guy. He's also an Air Force veteran. So please, without further ado, here's David. How you doing today, David?
I am good. I am excited and humbled to be on the program. This is kind of new for me. I've done podcasts, but more on the radio side, never on video. I'm not much of a video person myself. I don't like taking pictures, but I'm glad to be here.
We're glad to have you. We are glad to have you. And I personally am glad to have you because when I connected to you, I was trying to connect to all the veterans in our local area, and your name was the first to pop up actually. And I was like, wow, this guy seems pretty astounding. And then when we talked the first time, you were really open. You're like, hey, if you need anything. And I was like, hey, hop on the live with me and let's just talk about our experiences. Let's just talk about our experiences. What better way to spend at least 30 minutes of your day talking about your military past and then kind of what you do now. So to roll into it, can you please tell us a little bit about yourself and what you did in the Air Force?
Yeah, I'd love to. I actually enlisted pretty young. I was 17, and I checked out all the services, but I chose the Air Force, I think, because it seemed to have a little bit more of the technical IT, job related um, military, codes. So I was actually a 2 Alpha 1, which it doesn't exist anymore, but it's essentially electronic warfare. So I got to understand the digital world and some of the RF stuff that happens, the radio frequencies, and it was a great job. I did that for a little over 6 years. I was air crew on the RC-135, so that was a really fun experience as well to actually be flying around the world and got to see a lot of things and spent a lot of time in the desert. Of course, this was back in the '90s, just the tail end of the Gulf War. I was there in uh, Riyadh back in '97 and '98. So um, I got out in 2000 and jumped right into an IT career. And in retrospect, my transition wasn't that difficult, and it wasn't because I'm some kind of smart guy or
Mm-hmm.
um, charisma or anything like that. It was literally um, a relationship I had made, and I think we'll talk about that a little later. So I started working as a contractor for Lockheed Martin and spent a couple of years in DC. I didn't like it there, so I came to Tampa and I worked for several different companies, but ultimately the same customer was with uh, an agency of the intelligence community here at Tampa at MacDill. Um, did that for many, many years until about 2016 when I decided to make it wasn't really a career change. I'm still involved in IT, but I decided to go kind of um, out of my comfort zone a little bit. And now I'm dealing with mobility, and that's the current employers, Hypori. They deal with virtual mobility, so it's kind of cutting edge technology. It's on the forefront of new capabilities that the government as well as private sectors really getting noticed. So I'm glad to be a part of it, and so I do my 9 to 5. I kind of have a hybrid schedule, which is nice.
Mm-hmm.
Gives me the opportunity to do things like this at home, right? And so I'm really liking it, but it's been a challenge, and it's like I said, it's something new that I've not done in the past. But it turned out to be a really good decision. I've made a lot of bad decisions in my life, but it's surprisingly how one good decision can make all the difference. So I'm very blessed.
Amen to that, brother. Amen to that. And that just short spiel is very inspiring to me
Mm,
because I don't know if you said this, but for me to go from like a fireman to like kind of like a recruiter type to me trying to like I'm trying to study insurance too, it's a whole different switch. That's
Right.
like one of the biggest struggles. Um, and I just kind of want to touch on, did you have any like big struggles that might have um, had an impact on your career decisions while you were in the
Oh yes, absolutely, of course. There was one point in time where I had made that decision, that clean cut in 2016.
Mhm,
Um, I was essentially, you know, jobless for about 18 months. So it was a really tough transition. But I learned a lot of things along the way. And since I was, pretty handy with IT, I kind of just started a little LLC and did like odds and ends jobs here and there that just helped me, cover down on my monthly obligations as I worked my way back into the workforce. But really, that departure had to do a little bit with me like completely changing um, the environment. I was kind of burned out from the intelligence community and working in that arena for 16 years. So I just wanted to change, and I thought I was going to move into like the commercial world. So I was, you know, interviewing and doing a lot of resume tweaking to try to get into like the financial sector, into fintech, and into the medical world. There's some great organizations here in Tampa. Moffitt Cancer Center is one of them that does great work in the medical field. But it turns out that I basically did a 180 from that, and I started looking back at what I used to do to
mhm,
discover that there were things I could still do in the IT world and advance that career without having to make such a drastic change. But you know what? It was good I did, because it helped me understand and realize what was available to me. And sometimes in your search, knowing where not to look is just as good as finding that next place. And so I was looking in the wrong places, but you know what? It helped me understand. Um, the difficulties of transitioning, right? And so now I'm back at McDill, ironically. Been back since 2017, 2018.
mhm,
Different job, different environment, but again, it is a stretch to what I used to do. In the intelligence community, if you understand, it's a very closed off network. It's very private. It's very um, compartmentalized, right? And now I'm into this section of the DoD where everything's mobile, where you have devices and laptops and tablets, and you're working with new technologies to bring data to the forefront. And it's complete opposite of what I was doing in the past, especially with the mobility platforms that I've learned so much about Android and cell phones and iOS devices. At a deeper level than just using them, right? I'm understanding some of the development parts of it and the cycles that it takes to do that versus your standard software. There's a lot of stuff that I've learned from this change, and but you know what? It's gotten me further along in my career. I'm actually making more money than I ever made from a salary perspective. But there were some struggles, right? And I thought at one point that I had made a mistake by doing that. But I persevered, and we also have some things that me and my wife do on the side, little side hustles. I don't know if you noticed my LinkedIn page says working
yeah,
side hustles. It's important to do that because it actually gave me the opportunity to basically be jobless for a year and a half till I figured things out. Right, I still had income coming in from rental
mhm,
properties and from uh, other platforms that we use to create an income. So that's one of the things I always talk about when I sit down with veterans. Yes, job is first. We have to get you stable income, but you have to look beyond that because jobs will never be around 100% guaranteed all the time. And especially in my world of contracting, the rug can get pulled out of under you. But no different than working anywhere else, right? The company foresees something coming down the road where their bottom lines are going to be, you know, um, cut short, so they start letting people go. It's just the way that things work, and that's why it's important to have the other sources of income. And I like to preach that because I feel that as veterans, what better way to get repaid, if you will, for your sacrifice than by leveraging the free market system. That's why we live in America. That's what makes America great, is that ability to just in with a whip of a pen and a few strokes on the keyboard, you've got an LLC started, and now you've got these opportunities afforded to you through taxes and other forms that help well, hopefully will help foster your growth in that arena. And I can tell you that you can do both at the same time. Yes, it's hard, especially if you have a family, but you can work and you can still work a side hustle. It's all about just drive and determination.
That was like some of the best advice I could get possibly
Wow.
on this whole time I've been on here. That was like wow, because that opened up my mind. And you said, you had like 18 months, if I'm correct, 18 months that you were still trying to find a job. Um, during that 18 months, I guess my question would be, how did you learn to kind of like slow down, I guess, from going, this was a big question, from point A to point B, from going like that in the military to kind of slowing down, trying to figure out what you want and what you would like to do in your future career?
That's a really good question. Because there's been times where I've worked with veterans, and they're like, "This is exactly what I want." They use the knife hand and everything. And then when we go through, and we go through that plan, and they start discovering what it is it's going to take to get them to that, they either become more determined, or they back off and say, "Wait a minute, I thought, being, a cyber guy was going to be awesome." But then when I look at the certifications that it takes to do that, they're like, that's not what I'm interested in.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes, you know, having a plan is good, because you might start executing that plan and realize this isn't exactly what I wanted or what I was looking for. And, fire and adjust. That's the way it works. You can take your first couple of steps, and that's the important part, is that you just start, right? And then with some guidance and maybe some help from others, from family members or what have you, you'll help find your way. And I had a very good support system in my family and in my wife during that period. She knew what was happening. It's not like I just came home one day and said, "Babe, I quit." She knew it was going to happen. We planned it as best we could. We prepared for it. But she was awesome in helping me and supporting me during that time where I was making an adjustment that was impacting the family. You know what I mean? And that support structure is very, very important. But going back to answering the question, getting help from advocates like myself who just volunteer their time, things that you're
Hmm.
doing on this show, for instance, is another avenue towards um, kind of getting that support system in line. And honestly, yeah, it was hard. It was scary. Again, I thought sometimes I had made a mistake, and it just turns out that by trying, I was able to find my way because I tweaked what it was I was looking for. Like I said, I thought I was going to go into fintech. I thought that was my next. I had conquered the DoD, and now I was going to go do something else. And that really, um, going through that learning process, I realized that's not really where I want to go. I mean, I have a security clearance. I've had one for a majority of my life. Um, Man, it's been a long time since I've had a security clearance, and it was an actual. It was one of the assets I was trying to let go of. Um,
Hmm.
I was able to work in the intelligence community because of the level clearance I had, and realizing after I left that was something I was going to give up. Um, that would have been a mistake in my experience, because it affords me um, access to certain roles and positions in government that you just can't get without that. And understanding that it can be an asset. And I know for some people it's totally fine to let go of it. But for me
Hmm.
is what that one singular moment where I'm like, wow, I almost gave that up. And this was my door back into, now from 2018 to now. Um, it's been an amazing ride, and I've gotten to know some amazing people and create connections. And I think maybe this is where we talk a little bit about what you had said about my transition.
Hmm.
And coming out of the military, my transition was super easy, and I say that now in retrospect. Um, and it was because of a relationship I had forged while I was still active duty. And honestly, it was an oddball friendship. All my buddies, were always like, "Why are you hanging out with that dude? He's so corny. Like, why are you with
Mhm.
like he's just so weird and out of place." And he was just socially awkward and but it was a solid friendship that to this day, 20 some years later, we go
Wow.
on vacations together and we go and have fun. We're planning to go to Europe next year. So, but this is a relationship that got me that first job coming out. I had come back from deployment. I was short 6 weeks, about ready to sign all my paperwork to get out. And I got off. I remember clear as day. I got off the airplane, um, made it back to the squad, was walking out to the car from the parking, and some dude just like approaches me and he says, "Hey, do you know who Dan Barker is?" And I'm like, "Yeah, man, I know him, but I've been deployed for so long that when I came back, he was out, he was gone, and I never
Mhm.
knew if I was going to ever see him again. I didn't know what happened to him. If he went back to Arkansas, I have no idea where he went." Well, this guy turns out to be his boss. He got a job with Lockheed Martin, and he told Dan, he goes, "I want more of where you came from." And he told them where to go find me, and they came to me and said, "We want you to work for us." And it was just like that. I got a job, 6 weeks still active duty, and again, that was just from an unpopular relationship that I had with somebody. Um, and that I think is the key, is to find what you're looking for. You're gonna have to make some you're gonna have to find some relationships to bond with. Some of them you might already have in your Rolodex, if you will, and others you might have to just go get. Find them on LinkedIn or reaching back to your old, your old bunkmate back in the day or whatever, see what he's doing, or you know, talk to your last first shirt. I mean, I don't know, but what I mean is these are the type of things that lead to opportunities, because most veterans look out for one another. We know what that's about, right? We know what it is to have someone sick, so it's like really important um, to follow through with that mindset coming out. It is kind of scary. It is kind of you're apprehensive about everything. Oh, I'm not sure about social media. I'm not sure about LinkedIn. Yeah, well, look out. Be careful about Facebook, but look out. LinkedIn is more than you think it is. Um, and I'll give you an example real quick. When I transitioned from the IC and I was gone for 16 months, 18 months, didn't have a job, I found my
Mhm.
job through relationships I forged on LinkedIn, literally. Some of them I had known, and they met me. They connect me to that person, and that person, and that person. Next thing you know, hey, I'm looking for someone just like you. Perfect. And it started out, slow. I didn't jump into the job I got now, but it was the first step of about three career moves to get me to where I am now. And it was all done through LinkedIn. It was powerful. And so I encourage people, and that's one of the things I do. Spend time with veterans is talking to them through how to set up a profile properly. How to set up your security so that you're not closed off from everyone, but you're still open enough so that people can find you and in search hits and stuff like that, as well as like the etiquette involved in sending messages and how to approach strangers, if you will, on LinkedIn. There's a lot to it, but it's not that hard. So I enjoy doing that because it did wonders for me as far as leveraging LinkedIn as the platform I use to get where I am now. Um, that I encourage other people to do, and I take time out of my day and out of my schedule to sit down with veterans, young and old, don't matter, to kind of show them the ropes on that. But there's programs here at McDill. It's called uh, up, Transition USA, and what a great program that is, because the lady, she's a wonderful person. Nancy Lane, she's an amazing story, and she's the one that's created this 8-hour course on LinkedIn. And that's where I kind of got started with understanding how the power of it. when I linked up with her while I was still looking for work, believe it or not. So um, it's awesome. I get excited about that because I understand that it's a struggle, and I've talked to veterans that were getting out of the Air Force or out of the military in general, and they're 6 years still looking for work. I'm like, what? 6 years? It shouldn't have to be that way. And I know that there's struggles for all kinds of different reasons why that might happen, but it doesn't need to happen. And so I'm passionate about that.
First, I'd just like to say thank you, David, um, for actually getting out of the service and not just cutting off all the vets that you can, or not really reaching out to vets. You actually went above and beyond, even right now on your off time, to kind of just sit down and talk to them and help them out. That's one thing that I see in our veteran community. I see it a little bit here around here in Tampa, that a lot of veterans aren't connected to each other, and they're kind of just, like, I'd say ghosts. I call us ghosts,
Mm,
right? Because they kind of just roam by themselves, and they kind of just try to find their own place,
right.
and they don't know where to go or who to turn to or which side of the road to walk on. So that truly is an inspiration to me as well, because you take time out of your day to help vets. Um, and that, I know a lot of people who are watching are very inspired by what you just said.
Well, I
A lot,
appreciate that. I'm humbled. Thank
truly,
you.
truly. Um, to roll into my next question, with that being said, you were talking about how you kept connections, and you might not have talked for a minute with that person, but you had that connection when they were with you.
Mhm.
So, and you talked a little bit about connection on LinkedIn. To roll into my next question, it goes kind of hand in hand with that. How important to you is it to network on LinkedIn? And then my second question to follow that is, would it be wise, in your opinion, for people to network with vets, like a big group of veterans, like mainly vets, or do you think they should kind of diverse themselves and connect with vets and civilians as well?
Those are excellent questions, and um, I would say that uh, networking in general is super important. I love LinkedIn, but
Mhm.
I'm kind of an oddity because well, I wasn't always this way. It took a lot of growing, especially when I was doing some entrepreneurship activities that I had to get out of my shell, right? That I have to be, personable because IT people are normally not, right? We like to be by ourselves, sitting behind a desk, nobody bother me. But I learned that without changing my attitude a little bit towards meeting people, um, that's the only way you can basically succeed in business, let alone through life or trying to just get to your next role or find your next opportunity. LinkedIn networking is awesome because it's boundless, right? You can meet anyone from any part of the country or any part of the world. Um, but more importantly, what I like about networking is the opportunities here in Tampa to roll into that next, part. Um, I absolutely love networking. I do. I have met amazing people. I have um, opened doors for other people through the relationships that I've met, that I've connected with, and there was a point where I was deathly afraid to go to a networking event, um, and that was about 8 years ago. It took a lot of effort for me to get where I am today as far as networking goes, and and uh, and I was scared. It was ironic because the networking events are designed, and the purpose of them is to meet strange people, right? It's not weird to go shake someone's hand that you don't know. Don't worry about the approach. Don't worry. Get yourself out of that, because that's what I was worried about. Oh, it's weird just kind of randomly meeting people. No, it isn't. And when you find out how genuine a lot of these people are, and how amazing their stories are, it bonds you right there. And um, my purpose is to help and find other connections, right? That might help someone else. It's not always about me. because in the process of me helping someone else, my needs will be met. That's just the way it seems to turn out. And so, um, networking is huge. Networking is important. I would say marry the two, right? Spend your time networking on LinkedIn, but then
Mhm.
take the opportunity to go to, I don't know, uh, a basket weaving networking event, anything, just to put yourself out there, because you'll never know who you're going to meet. And I've done that. I've actually gone to like realtor networking events and
Mhm.
art events. I'm not an artist either. I just show up and they're like, "Oh, so what kind of art do you create?" I'm like, "I'm not an artist. I'm just here because I like to network." And they're like, "That's awesome because we never get anybody from the outside coming in. We're always in the same community." So it is kind of nice to break away. There
Mhm.
are very few. There are quite a few veteran-oriented networking events that I love to go to. Tampa Bay VetNet is one of the best ones that I can tell you about. Um, there's a few others, but honestly, um, think about the industry you want to be in, right? So there's probably, a firefighters league or something out there that if you wanted to continue to be in that career field, you can go and plug into that environment, plug into that network. Um, but, you know, I feel that if you have a fear of it like I did,
Mhm.
taking the first step and just going to one doesn't matter if it actually, it probably would recommend veterans attend a veteran event first to kind of break the ice there and see how easy it is and gives you that confidence, then go and try to go, to a fintech event or an event for medical devices or what have you, because you'll find that you'll be surprised. Let me just put it that way. I've been surprised and shocked at who I've met at these events. It's amazing.
That's something I've been trying to find as I'm home. I've been trying to find places to network. I've been even like looking online, see if there's like network groups online that just talk. Um,
There
a
are.
lot.
There's two places that I look for networking events online.
Mhm.
One of them is Eventbrite. The other one's Meetups, and there's a third one. But those two are my primarily go tos. If I want to go find in a networking event, I hit up either one of those two, and start joining communities, and then you'll realize that they have. You can go to a networking event every day of the week if you wanted to here in Tampa Bay. You really could. And it's great because they have different venues from St. Pete to Clearwater to Tampa to South Tampa to North Tampa. There's just always something um, to go to. There's not a lack of networking events. I'll tell you that for sure.
Thank you. After this, please, I'm gonna message you and
Yes,
drop those links. And then I guess one second to the final question, the kind of boring one that everybody doesn't like to talk about, resume,
okay.
resumes.
Uh, right.
Yep.
So
So,
look,
mhm.
I'll tell you real quick. Um, it is important to have a resume, but in my experience, I've gotten hired without it. Various times through LinkedIn, first of all.
Mhm.
And secondly, it is important to have a resume and a clean one, right? One that's um, tailored for the role that you're actually seeking or have achieved. But it's not the all important thing. It really, I would say, spend more time networking, spend more time on LinkedIn,
Mhm.
and then spend some time on your resume. Um, it's I know that it seems to be the bad advice, but it's not. Resume writing is it can take up way too much of your time and way too much of your resources when you could be doing stuff other than that that'll get you where you want. And again, it's one of those another cardinal sin that everyone does is they create one and then just pass it out to everyone. That does more harm than good, to be honest, because it's impossible to quantify everything you've done as a veteran on paper. Um, it's nearly impossible because there's so many of those unseen qualities, right? That even as an E4 or an E5, some of the leadership that you've taken on in some cases is on the corporate side. You're already like a segment manager. You know what I mean? Like you're already at middle management as someone as a junior, staff sergeant. So I feel like there's a lot of um, things that you'll actually hurt yourself by doing such a thing as just creating one generic resume and passing it out. I think it's it should be focused and it should be purposeful to the role that you want. Other than that, you shouldn't ever uncover your resume.
Thank you so much. I have a lot of I've had countless opinions about, hey, you should have a great resume. Hey, you should tailor your resume. Hey, you should just have a general resume. Hey, you should have a cover
Right.
letter with your
Right.
resume. So I love hearing everybody's different opinions, and then having just everybody who's watching this kind of take in the note what they can and can't do. But for most of the time, a lot of them say you want a nice, clean, tailored out resume to that job.
Yep.
Um, and if we go to the comments real quick, there's also a guy named Samuel that asked, "What was your biggest struggle leaving the military, if there were some?"
And I didn't want to leave. I actually it was some people that ask that have never experienced being a veteran or being in the military.
Mm-hmm.
I always describe it this way: it was the best and the worst time of my life at the same time. And a lot of veterans kind of understand that, but people look at me like, how is that possible? It's like, because I've been to places that aren't fun and it's uncomfortable and you might die, right? And there's times where that did cross my mind, right?
Mm-hmm.
But to know that I was there with a bunch of guys and a bunch of gals that I trusted and I believed in, and we were going through the same thing together. Um, it was really tough to leave, but um, the I took some of that with me though, right? The brotherhood that I have with my friend Dan that I still talk to today, quite a few others as a matter of fact, but he's like my closest one. Um, that was the biggest struggle for me was leaving. The transition was again not so hard because of the relationships I had made, but um, the separation from it did give me anxiety. And guess what? Like I've been in the DoD as a DoD contractor since 2000. So that's 23 years. My customer are people in uniform. So I
Mm-hmm.
never really left. I support them in a different way. I'm there providing a service to them that they rely on. And I love that. And I think that that's one of the reasons I continue to do that because it was so hard for me to walk away from the Air Force and I didn't want to, but I thought that it was the right. Well, let me put it this way: as a 22-year-old kid, my intentions were a little different about leaving. It was all about the money, right?
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, um, I wouldn't give it up for the world. I'd do it all over again.
I like that because there. When you said that, I hated it and loved it at the same time. It's also like, man, I had good days, I had bad days.
Right.
I had work I didn't want to do, and then I had the people who cared that would be like, "Hey, we got this. Let's get through it." So there
Right.
is good days and there is bad days. It's a hate love, but mostly love more than hate relationship.
I agree, man. I couldn't put it better myself. I love the time that I was in the Air Force. I would do it all over if I could, if I had to. And the people that I met and the people that are with me to this day from that experience, I will never give up. They're more precious to me than anything. And it was without my time in the military. That was the foundation for the rest of my life, right? It really was the training and the discipline I got from the craft that I learned as an IT professional. That all came from that point. I pulled everything good that I could out of that experience because trust me, there was a lot more bad things I don't want to talk about. But I took all that good with me, and it was my experience in the military that was literally the foundation for the rest of my life. And the values that the Air Force instills, service before self, excellence is all you do. I still carry those things with me to this day. Those were ingrained in my mind, maybe because I was a 17-year-old kid, but maybe also because there was some truth to that, and there was some integrity to what they were teaching, and because of that, like I said, I'm here today because of that 5 years, 6 years I spent in the Air Force, man. I can't deny that fact.
So basically, you're saying keep the bad in the past and keep the good for the present and the future.
Oh wow, I guess so. It's a
There's
good way to
a
put it.
little synopsis on that one. I was
Yeah, all
like,
right,
okay,
that's
I
good.
like that. I like that.
That's good.
That
That's good.
so I do respect your time, David, and honestly, this is one of the best shows I've done.
Oh
Right?
well, thank you.
Out of
I'm honored,
all the
man,
ones
and I'm
I've done,
definitely going to continue to be in touch with you.
this
I
is
think
one
we
of the
could
best.
do a lot more together. The next one we do, though, I want to be face to face. You're in Tampa, right?
Yep.
Or in the
I'm
Bay
uh,
Area?
I'm actually near Clearwater,
Okay.
uh up there by Holiday. I don't know if you know where that's at, near
Yeah,
Tarpon
I do
Springs.
know where that's at.
But it's an hour away.
I'm in South Tampa by McDill, but it's a short drive. We'll meet somewhere in the middle. Love to have a coffee with you sometime.
We definitely will. We definitely
All
will.
right.
The big
Leo, thank
question,
you so much.
the
Yes.
big question before you leave.
What's
Is
up?
there any advice you would like to give veterans or companies looking to hire veterans or transitioning service members who are about to get out who aren't quite veterans of yet, but they're kind of, nervous about?
Well, I know that in the past, there's been a stigma around PTSD, and
Mhm.
it wasn't always centered around military people. Everyday people get PTSD from a car accident or from something traumatic that happened to them, from simple life itself, death in the family. All these things create these types of symptoms that you see in someone who experienced or suffering from PTSD. Um, I know that that's kind of an old topic, but I think still to this day, people fear that they're going to get a veteran that's going to, cause havoc in their shop, and I don't think that's always the case. I feel like the hard skills that you find on paper are just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to a veteran. I don't care what level of service you were in, whether you were an officer enlisted or whether you made it all the way through the E9 level or you just got out like me as an E4 and E5. There's something valuable there that they can provide to you. And I think, and I'll end this. I feel like veterans make really good employees, but they make excellent entrepreneurs. And the reason they do, I feel, is because they're resourceful. They have um, they deal with what they got to get the job done, right? As other people might complain, well, I don't have enough time, or that I don't have you're not giving me enough tools to do my job. That's not the veteran. The veteran's going to do their job with whatever is given and whatever's presented in front of them. Um, because that's how we had to do it, right? Do more with less. That was the talk, at least when I was in. So um, it's something that I think is overlooked, and this is why I kind of have, I don't say a negative connotation toward resumes, but the resumes are my favorite thing because they don't talk to the person. You have to meet them first instead of just discard them because your database search came up as them with a 99%, um, hit rate versus the guy you hired had a 98, 99.8% because he
Mhm.
had two extra words in there that made all the difference. Now, those are just words on paper. Can they do the job? Absolutely, they can. And I feel like that's sometimes overlooked, unfortunately, when it comes to veterans and the skills that they bring to the table that can't be put on paper.
I definitely agree. So if you're a hiring company out there, veterans are the way to go. Veterans are the way to go. So
Absolutely.
again, David, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for paying it forward, as the title would say. And thank you to all the viewers out there who are watching this. I hope you guys found at least something that he said and are taking it into consideration. And um, hopefully, are you okay with people adding you on LinkedIn after this as well?
Oh yes, please connect with me on LinkedIn. I've got other contact information there. Reach out to me. I'll be more than happy to take messages and fill up my calendar with meeting more and more amazing veterans. I would love to be able to help everyone, but sometimes that's not the case. But I can always do my best to meet with you at least and get your story and see if there's something we could do together.
Again, David, thank you so much. And, you know, again, thank you for paying it forward.
Man, thank you so much for what you do, and I appreciate that. Thank you so much. It's been an honor.
Thank you.